Owls are predators that hunt mostly at night. They range in size, and what they eat is dependent on this. Mid-size owls typically feed on mice, voles, and other animals that are active at night. Owls swallow their prey whole. When they have ingested their prey, the parts such as the bones and fur are compressed into pellets, which are regurgitated. Because the prey is swallowed whole, it is possible to reconstruct the skeleton of the prey and identify it from its bone structures. Owl pellets can be found near the roost of the owl. The pellets that are provided have been sanitized and are safe for the students to dissect. In Activity 10, students dissect owl pellets and offer ideas about what they are and their contents. Students identify bones found within and construct food chains that include owls. This activity will take 2 sessions with about 45 minutes each. Session 1, the students will dissect the pellets, and in Session 2, we'll try to identify the bones and create more complex food chains. The vocabulary introduced in this activity is dissect and pellet. From the kit for each team of 4, you will need 1 small plastic container with lid, 1 owl pellet, 4 toothpicks, and 2 pairs of tweezers. You will also need the roll of masking tape. You will need to provide 1 11 by 17 sheet of white paper or use the white trays. You may want to have disposable gloves for each student. Make copies of Activity Sheet 10 and the bone identification sheet for each student. If the pellets are packaged in plastic with labels, remove them and discard the bags. Hold up a pellet for the students to see and ask them what they think it might be. Write pellet on the board and tell the students that a rounded piece of material is referred to as a pellet. Continue by telling students that these objects will be called mystery pellets for now. Distribute a copy of Activity Sheet 10 and disposable gloves for each student. For each team of 4, pass out 1 pellet and have the students draw and record observations on their worksheet. When they have completed this, ask, what do you think these mystery pellets might be? Write their ideas on the board. Johanna, let's take a look at our mystery pellet. I want you to just look at that and observe, and then let's record some observations and properties of mystery pellets on our worksheet.
Okay, first of all, it's rough, it's rounded, it's not very heavy. It might be lighter than a rock. I see some little white spots on it. Sometimes students might see little orange spots on it, so it has a lot of properties. It's solid, but I bet it's not real hard.
So how might we learn more about this mystery pellet?
I think we need to take it apart carefully. Okay,
well let's dissect it or carefully take it apart and find out what's inside. So you want to break it in half, and
sure.
Would you like a pair of gloves to use?
You know, with my students, I didn't use the gloves. That's an optional kind of thing, and they don't come with the kit.
Okay, I think I might use some gloves on my part. And here's tweezers, and here are a couple of toothpicks to use in case you need to pick that carefully apart. Are you finding anything in there?
Oh, yes. Some large, hard-looking things here.
What is all of this that you have kind of going on?
I believe that looks like hair or fuzz, or goodness, look at all these little bones or pieces. They look like bones to me, but we're not sure.
Well, it looks like we are seeing some bones here, so it's going to take us a while to get this apart, but what you might want to do at the end of this first session, after students start seeing that they have bones in here, they might want to go on and explain to them that this came from an owl. And at this point, then we can start calling it an owl pellet. So we want to collect the materials and bones because we're going to use it again in the second sessions. So let's...
You're going to have kids not wanting to stop.
I know. I'm thinking I'm having a hard time getting you to stop. So you're going to want to collect the materials and put them in the container with the lid and ready to use for the next session. Then have the students wash their hands. Either at the end of session 1 or at the beginning of session 2, you want to let the students know what the mystery pellets are and that they came from an owl. Students will naturally be curious about where owl pellets come from, and which you will need to explain using background information from the teacher's guide. Let's get back to looking at what we found in our owl pellet, Johanna. We've got a lot of bones that we've cleared out here, and we have our bone identification sheet. So let's see if we can recognize any of these bones. So let's take a look at this first one. What do you think this is?
Okay, students will probably, when they begin dissecting, think that this is a bird skull. How could we let them know that it's not a bird skull? What are some things, Kathy, that you think will deter their thoughts of a bird skull?
Well, we're looking for a beak, and this doesn't have a beak, but it does have something that looks like teeth, so we could actually pull this out and actually see that is a tooth. I'm not going to do that right now, but also there were some other pieces that came with this, and when we looked at it as we were beginning to take it apart, we see something that's all covered in fur. And then if you can see this part, Johanna, right here we have the basically the lower jaw as it's still attached to the skull. And so the students then might still, again, not be sure if it's a bird or some kind of a rodent. So what we can do too is we see that when we further take it apart, we have the bottom jaw.
If you look very carefully on that, you'll see that there are little teeth on that bottom jaw, and actually you'll find 2 of these because the bottom jaw is only held together with a little bit of cartilage, and it breaks apart.
Right. They can use their magnifiers, and they get a closer look at the teeth. And with this one, obviously the other jaw has gotten knocked off. But as they're taking those apart, they probably will find some skulls that are totally intact, so that they'll be able to see that jaw was attached.
Now, it is possible that they would find a bird skull, that they would be looking for the beak and probably evidence of feathers. They would also might find some shrew skulls, which would be even smaller than the mouse, which would be a meadowvole or other kind of rodent.
Okay, I have another interesting looking bone here. If we want to use our bone identification sheet, let's see if we can find any bones that might match this.
Look at the hole between those 2. I wonder if that might be the lower leg.
Okay, and students actually, as they're identifying bones, might take those bones and actually lay them on their bone identification sheet to be able to see if they can even construct the whole creature. Now, again, there is a lot to be learned about all of the things that might come in an owl pellet and owl behavior. There is a wealth of information on the internet that students can look up.
There really is.
And even finding information in the library on books. And so I think that would be a good research project for them to kind of get interested in. It raises all kinds of questions that they can bring in. So to continue on with this lesson, if students want to take these home, I'll show you a tip on how they can get those home safely. Help students process where owls fit in the food chain by creating the food chain of grass, cricket, anole, and owl. Continue the lesson by challenging the students to create other food chains that include secondary and tertiary consumers. Students may want to take the remains of the owl pellets home with them or save them for extension activities. One quick way to save them is for them to pick the bones up in their gloved hand and pull the glove off, tie it off, and it's ready to go home. Or they could take a zip bag, which would also work to take them home in. Have students wash their hands after handling the pellets in both sessions. Rinse and dry the plastic containers and return them to the kit along with the tweezers. Guide the students to review pages 6 through 9 in the Delta Science Reader.